is the law of compensation. The law of compensation. The law of compensation actually works with cause and effect. Because when we make good choices and they have good effects, sometimes they come with great compensation, right? If you put effort into something and we know that it's going to turn out good, sometimes we're compensated so greatly. Again, we sow, we reap what we sow, right? Karma, going back to law, to cause and effect. That's a good word. Karma is a good word for cause and effect. Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get something. Something good might happen. Okay, because she asked me today, because we're driving, and this person was driving standard, so they almost rolled back. She said, Mom, if they rolled into you, would that be your fault or their fault? And I said, well, it would probably be my word against theirs and whatnot, but they rolled into me, so it would be their fault. But I'm behind them, so it would be my fault, right? So she's like, well, so how come when you rolled into somebody and you broke their plate, right? Because the woman was behind me, but she pulled in as I was reversing, so she wasn't watching, and I broke her plate. I paid for it, right? And she's like, but it wasn't your fault. I said, but it doesn't matter. It's still the fact that I knew I reversed without looking. So I bumped into her and I broke it, so I paid for it. She's like, and I said, it's just a karma thing. She's like, yeah, but you didn't get anything. I said, I didn't get anything, but there's quite possible that something bad didn't happen to me because I did that.
Right.
So not necessarily I received something, but something could have been going to happen, and I kind of reversed it because of the...
For cause and effect.
Right.
But compensation, you're always compensated.
Right, okay.
Always compensated. Law of compensation means that now, for instance, now that you did that, and you were so kind, you didn't look, but you paid back so you wouldn't get bad karma.
Well,
okay?
I knew.
But now, because you sent that out to the universe will treat you like that back, and that is the law of correspondence. Because of you being so kind, people will treat you with the same respect. So when they do something to you that is questionable, they will pay for it. So that's the law of correspondence, definitely. So the law, and so you will always get back the same treatment. But now the law of compensation, yeah.
But sometimes when you make choices, you don't necessarily know if it's going to be a good choice or a bad choice. It just works out that it's a bad choice. You see what I mean?
Most times when you do something negative, like this woman with the divorce, she had to know inside of her, and she did tell me too, that many times she said she thought about it. Should I give him the divorce papers? If you have to say to yourself, should I or should I not? And you already know it's a questionable, risky decision, then you have to be willing to know that the odds are iffy. Right? But if you do something with total good intentions, then the effects that come back sometimes may seem a little uncomfortable and everything, but you will still be rewarded somehow, compensated somehow for the good energy that you did it with. You did it with good intentions, you will get those good intentions back somehow.
So it sometimes doesn't have nothing to do with the choices. So for example, I'm not going to use relationship here. For example, use for a profession. You chose a profession that's not really the right choice.
Right.
And it didn't turn out to be a good outcome because of the choices that you made.
Okay, so, see.
You get what I mean?
Yes. Do you want to use relationship? I know it's what you really want to use. Because that's not, because career, when you get into a certain job, you can always change it, but you usually go into that job wanting it. And if you don't want it, it's just because you have to take it at the moment. Now, let's say someone does go to school, and they go to school for a certain job, and afterwards, they're like, after a year or whatever, oh, I don't like that. It's not what I thought it was going to be. Like dental hygiene, right? It's not what I thought it was going to be. The effect is you got the job. So the cause is you went to school. The effect is you got the job. Now you just have to change your decision and create a new cause and effect. All right? And if you do want to touch on relationships with the cause and effect, then definitely the cause is that person was not all that from the beginning. And even if he was all that from the beginning, there were certain signs. There's always a sign, right?
You know, your
Isn't
heart
there?
is questionable.
There's always something that says, okay, I'll go. You know, there's always that thing that says, maybe I shouldn't. Even at age 16, right? You would know. 16 and a half, almost 17 now, right? You would know. And I think we always know when there's something. And that's our gut. That's our intuition. And that's that small voice inside of us, right? So we always know something. But when we apply the law of cause and effect in a conscious way, consciously, we always profit somehow. And then again, that profit is law of compensation. Now, the law of compensation is something that may not come back as money. It may come back as respect. It may come back as what Autumn went through, kindness. It may come back as money. So compensation does not always mean that you're compensated with financial rewards. Okay? In the Bible, there's a story called the parable of the two sons. Okay? And there's an old man, an old rich man. Has anyone ever heard of the parable of the two sons?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
The prodigal son, right?
Not the prodigal son.
Okay.
You know what the prodigal son.
I know what.
Yeah, so I remember one class you said, is that the prodigal son story? Okay, so the parable of the two sons. So there's two sons and a father. The father was now aging, an older man, and he owned a lot of property, beautiful, beautiful vineyard. And so he had his two sons. The older one was to inherit everything, and his name was Yaakov. And then the younger son's name was Micah. So now what happened was, Micah, again, he's the younger one, Yaakov is the older one, and Yaakov had a habit of going out into the vineyard and bragging all the time, looking all around for acres and acres, this is all going to be mine one day, and bragging about it constantly, and Micah would just hear him out the corner of his head and just never, pay too much mind. So harvest time came, and no one was there to help. So the old man, he can't do it himself, so he goes to Micah and he says, Micah, please come. I need you to come help me and help with the harvest. And Micah says, no, Dad, I'm not. Why should I? Seriously, why should I? Yaakov is always bragging how he's going to get everything, and let him go do it. Why are you asking me first? Did you even ask him yet? And his father's like, Micah, come. Micah said, no, I'm not coming. That's it. So the father goes to Yaakov, and he says, Yaakov, come on, son. You have to come and help me. Your father's old now. You need to come help me. And so Yaakov says, okay, Dad. All right, I'm going to come help. Go and start without me. I'll be right there. Some time passes, and all of a sudden, Micah shows up. And he says, Dad, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have spoke to you in that way. I have no excuse to do it, even though Yaakov goes on that way all the time. I still should have spoken to you with respect. So the father says, okay, well, I'm glad you're here. Come on, let's get this work done. So the work is done. Yaakov is still nowhere to be seen. Even though he said it to his dad, he'd soon come. Right? He's still not there. So he shows up in the evening time, and like always, the father doesn't say anything to him. The father doesn't even bother with him. The work is done, just leave it. The father gets very old now, and he's on his deathbed. And he says to Micah, the younger one, Micah, this is what I want you to know. When I die, all of this is yours. Micah says, no, Father, I don't want it. It's supposed to be Yaakov's. Yaakov is the older one. The older child is supposed to inherit everything. And the father says, no, you shall be compensated for your loyalty. You have done much for me, son, and you will be compensated. So he was compensated in that way. And that was a parable that Jesus spoke about in the Bible. And again, it's called the parable of the two sons. And the reason why is, again, because of one of Jesus' favorite sayings, you reap what you sow. And in life, that is exactly what happens. All right. Dear Divine Creator, we love you so much, and we thank you for today. We thank you for your presence. We thank you for all the laws of the universe, which make so much sense. We ask you to help us put into action the law of correspondence, the law of cause and effect, and the law the law of cause and effect, help us understand it better so we can have the law of compensation without any debits and with all deposits. We ask you, Father, to keep us strong, keep us healthy, keep us keen, help us to love ourselves and love others, keep us on the right path at all times, and let us know when we can help you in your name. We ask you for your guidance constantly, your love and your mercy, and we thank you for everything. We live you, we love you, we honor you. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.